Today I'm going to be talking to you about the 7 ITIL guiding principles. I'm going to examine what they are in the scheme of the ITIL framework and what they're each for. I'll do an explanation of the concept behind the guiding principles, and then I'll explain how each of them goes about fulfilling that. So, what is a guiding principle? We've got guiding principles in all walks of life. The 10 Commandments are just a set of guiding principles for good choices in life. Even without religion, most people have a set of personal codes that act as their moral compass. The medical profession has the mantra, do no harm. Most professional associations insist that their members act with integrity. These are all just guiding principles that help us to make good choices which reflect our chosen stance. The ITIL guiding principles are simply those recommendations that guide the decisions we make as a service provider organisation. The ITIL framework defines them as recommendations that can guide an organisation in all circumstances, regardless of changes in goals, strategy, type of work or management structure. They also state that they are universal and enduring, meaning that they are part of the fabric of ITIL and should form part of the foundations of how your organisation does service management. The fact is, ITIL was derived from the input of many thousands of organisations, but as a result of this, no organisation perfectly fits ITIL. The underpinning mantra of ITIL, therefore, has always been adopt and adapt. You adopt the ITIL framework and you adapt it to the needs and specifics of your organisation. But that begs the question, how far can we adapt before we have strayed from best practice? The guiding principles represent the very essence of what ITIL believes to be best practice service management. Providing that you can affirm that you are considering and striving to adhere to these principles, you've probably not strayed too far. I'm not going to explain each guiding principle. If you've done an ITIL foundation, they'll have been described to you there. If you've not done an ITIL foundation, check out our site. Get yourself booked onto one. What I am going to do is I'm going to examine why each one helps towards best practice, or possibly why not paying attention to it could be a bad thing. At the end of this, I'll also look at whether there are other guiding principles that you might want to consider. Like I said, these are only the ones espoused by ITIL. There are going to be ones which are specific to your organisation or specific to the way you do IT service management. The first guiding principle I'm going to talk about is focus on value. It says all activities conducted by the organisation should link back directly or indirectly to value for itself, its customers or other stakeholders. Frankly, if we're not trying hard to understand the customer and the other stakeholders and make sure that what we are delivering contributes to the creation of value for them, we should hang our heads in shame. The only point of being a service provider is to provide a service, which is a means of enabling value co-creation by facilitating outcomes, etc. The definition of service actually specifically says we want to make sure that we understand what the customer's outcomes are and how, by doing something ourselves, we are contributing to a situation which enables value for them. That should be our absolute essence. Working hard to help your customers achieve their goals should be absolutely everything we are. As we perform any activity, as we develop our products and services, we need to take a good look at what already exists. That might mean physical hardware, it might mean software, documentation, processes, capability, personnel, relationships, supplier contracts, knowledge, everything. I mean, think about it. How much effort has gone into what we've already got and what we're already doing? You don't want to waste effort and reinvent the wheel. So we need to systematically and methodically examine the elements of what already exists and think which ones are good and which ones are bad. We want to reuse the good and replace the bad. That doesn't just mean keeping the good though. It also means looking at how we can expand the good. Are there examples of where we are excelling at something that we could replicate elsewhere in the organisation? Trying to perform work in large monolithic blocks is really inflexible, it's time consuming, it's complex. If we break work down into manageable, smaller steps, it gives us back some of that flexibility. It reduces the time to gain value. It reduces complexity. There's so many advantages. Reduced risk. Smaller increments mean fewer unknowns. Problems can be identified earlier. Failures are limited to the scope and therefore easier to implement and easier to recover from. Far safer than large Big Bang type changes. If we deliver work in smaller slices, you can release meaningful improvement sooner. Means that the customers benefit from the value earlier and you avoid those long dead zones, those long radio silences where no progress is visible. Feedback loops, whether these are from the users, the customers, from teams, from monitoring tools, help to ensure that you build the right thing and solve the actual problem, not just based on assumptions. Course corrections happen early, not at the end, and that reduces wasted effort. Frequent testing and evaluation improves accuracy. It makes defects easier to isolate and fix, and encourages continual improvement. Greater flexibility and adaptability. We get iterative working and embraces change instead of resisting it. You can react to new requirements, you can react to shifts in priority or changes in technology or resource constraints without having to tear down months of work. And if we break work down into smaller tasks, they're more understandable, they're more achievable, they're more measurable. And that means that teams stay far more focused and motivated because progress is visible and manageable. Organizations are complex machines. They work best when everyone works collectively towards common goals with sensible terms of engagement and good information sharing. Without collaboration, you can end up with complicated, overlapping, contradictory, or even missing goals and objectives, and the resulting pain and friction that causes. Far better to ensure a shared direction, shared success, shared support. In order to do this, everyone needs to have access to the information that helps them to help each other. What's the design? What's the plan? Who's doing what? What progress has been made? Where are there bottlenecks or issues? What decisions need to be made, are being made, have been made? What are the agreed parameters of the service? The list is endless. Promoting visibility means ensuring that information is shared openly. Work is not hidden. Decisions and responsibilities are clear. Progress is transparent and everybody understands how their work fits into the bigger picture. On a very real philosophical level, everything in the universe is connected. That's no less true in terms of products and services. Each component is a connected piece of a complex multi-dimensional jigsaw. Changing any one piece can have repercussions that, if we're not careful, can destabilize things we weren't even aware are linked. It's not just about taking a helicopter view, it's about seeking to understand the cause and effect relationships between actions, the physical and technical connections between components, the interactions between teams and stakeholders and suppliers, the full end-to-end flow, the feedback loops, the bottlenecks. It's about applying systems thinking. We need to understand that the outcomes emerge from how the components interact, not just from the components individually. Without knowing this, we're flying blind or hitting and hoping, which very often ends badly. In order to achieve any objective, we should think carefully about what's necessary to achieve it, whether that be the steps of a process or the parts of a solution. If any step or part is not essential to the achievement of the objective, and it's not needed as part of some other essential control, we should look to eliminate it. Lean talks about value adding, necessary non-value adding, and wasteful elements of processes. But keep it simple and practical extends this to every aspect of the operating model and management system of service management. Think about it. Why on earth would you want to do something that wastes everyone's time, effort, and money? The Optimise and Automate guiding principle is about thinking about the whole when we're implementing technology. Although that's not easy, it's not the difficult part. The trick is actually to get the best out of the technology and the human components working in harmony. Technology is great at many things that humans are bad at. In actual fact, that's the main reason that most technology exists. Either humans were bad at or incapable of doing something, so we invented a machine to do it with us or for us. And that's the point of Optimise and Automate. Some or most technology still needs human direction, intervention, or control. Services often need human empathy or possibly just even the mere presence. Optimise and Automate is about getting that balance right. What can technology do without needing human intervention? And how do we optimize the relationship between the two and get the best out of that synergy? So that was the ITIL guiding principles. But how about some possible additions? What about build trust through transparency? Many organizations struggle with silo behavior. Things like the cultural fear of sharing bad news or issues around hidden work. Collaborate and promote visibility touches it, but maybe a clearer cultural principle, explicitly calling out trust. Design for people first. Several organizations that I've worked with have got this kind of concept. Obviously, ITIL's focus on value is outcome orientated, but many teams benefit from a principle that explicitly centers on human experience. ITIL 5 indeed has added experience to the definition of value, so maybe this sort of a principle might consolidate how to think that way. What about others? Build with security and resilience in mind. We build systems not just to actually kind of pay lip service to the service level agreements, but actually we kind of build them with the entirety being about security and resilience, building in the concepts that we think about in terms of DevSecOps. We kind of hear that being mentioned. Own the outcome, not just the activity. That's a really key one. There's a lot of organizations out there who think that what their purpose is to perform activities. Now, in a kind of a basic sense, yeah, sure. But actually, go back to focus on value. The point of the activities you are doing is not the activity. The point is the outcome, the value that it creates. So calling that out explicitly. Own the outcome. If you can think of more to add to this list, I'd love to hear them. Please leave them in the comments. Please let me know. I hope this was useful. We're going to be doing loads more videos like this. Please check out our channel and leave us a comment of any topics you'd like us to cover. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to hit like. Thanks for watching. See you next time.